So, a very good evening to all of you. This is your course instructor, Khushwant Patnani. Starting off with the session for the day. Today, we are covering some assignment question solutions, right? And some basic questions from the chapter Thermal Properties of Matter, right? So, let us begin class. All right. So, I have the questions in front of me. You all can bring your hands down. Thank you. All right, class. So as we are starting off with this concept, right, or this assignment class. So in this assignment class, let us first have a look at some basic concepts in the chapter Thermal Properties of Matter. Like yesterday, we had done thermodynamics. So the assignment which I've given you today, right? So in today's class, we are going to solve that assignment, right? That is assignment number 10, and see some basic concepts in the chapter Thermal Properties of Matter. All right. And the chapter Thermodynamics. So it will be a continuation of what we had read in the last class. Right? Some concepts from these and numericals from the chapter. So let's start off, class. Let's start off. So we have thermodynamics and assignment number 10 being covered. So some important concepts in the chapter Thermal Properties of Matter are as under. So first thing, in this chapter, you are told that how does a thermometer work, right? Or how do such devices work which are used to predict temperature, right? Let's say one is a pressure based thermometer or a gas thermometer. So for a gas thermometer, we utilize a concept that if at a particular temperature I know what is the pressure, so we say that pressure and temperature are linearly related. Pressure and temperature for a gas are linearly related. See, we all know by ideal gas equation PV is equal to nRT, right? So we use this concept in the working of a pressure thermometer. Let's say pressure at temperature T is denoted by P and then T in subscript, after which we write this minus of pressure at a known temperature, let's say T1, all right, this whole divided by pressure at some temperature T2 minus pressure at the same temperature T1, and then the difference of those temperatures on the other side, right? So let's say we are given that at temperature 100 Kelvin, or let's say even a better work, or yeah, let's say we are given with pressures, let's say at 300 Kelvin, pressure is given as, we can decide the units according to our convenience, let's say 1, right, 1 atm. Now let's say for a temperature of 350 Kelvin, right, the pressure is given as 1.25 atm, right? So now these can be taken as PT1, sorry, these can be taken as PT1, right, PT2, similarly this can be taken as T2 and T1 respectively, right? So we have the corresponding pressure and temperature values. Now let's say the question asks you find out the pressure find out the pressure at 400 Kelvin, right? So now all you have to do is just substitute these values like this. So P minus, let's say T1 is 300. So P minus 300 upon 350 minus 300 is equal to temperature at which the pressure is required, that is 400, minus T1, that is 300, whole by T2 minus T1, that is, this will be here. So we'll write the pressures, pardon me, over here. So the pressure is 1 atm, right? And here the pressure was 1.25 minus 1, and here you'll get 350 minus 300. So what is happening is that we are finding out thus the pressure value at a temperature of 400 Kelvin by this formula, correct? So this is how we have come into a format of predicting pressure using given ranges of temperature, right? Similarly, there are different thermometers which are based on resistances. So let's say in a resistance thermometer, the formula will remain the same. In a resistance thermometer, the formula remains the same. All that you have to do is to exchange pressure by resistance. So in the question, rather than telling you about the pressure in ATM, it will talk about resistance in ohms, right? As simple as that. It is again why, because we know that resistance increases or decreases with change in temperature, right? So because of that relation, we can also use resistance in order to predict thermometer or temperature using a thermometer. The third thing, right? So same relation will hold, just that you'll replace pressure with resistance, right? And similar questions based on that fact. Now, taking the relation between different scales, temperature scales. So we have different temperature scales given as one is, we know, Celsius, the other is Fahrenheit, right? And then we know one is Kelvin. Let's see the link between them, right? So how do you relate the temperatures is C minus ice point in C. I write it as C ice whole by temperature, which is at steam point minus ice point. So what is this C steam and C ice? C steam is representing the steam point. Steam point is the temperature in degrees Celsius, where steam is formed at the point where the water from liquid state converts into vapor state. That temperature is steam point. Similarly, this one will be ice point. Temperature in degrees Celsius where ice is formed from water. And on a similar note, you will have F minus, you must have guessed it, yes, Fi is upon temperature in Fahrenheit or steam point in Fahrenheit minus ice point in Fahrenheit. Similarly, temperature in Kelvin minus ice point in Kelvin whole by steam point in Kelvin minus ice point in Kelvin. So this is how different temperature scales are related. You know, in exam, they can give you one hypothetical scale. Let's say that scale is theta, or let's say that scale is beta, any scale, right? Now they ask you to find out what is beta value. What is beta value if they will give you its ice point and its steam point. So take a note of such a question. Its steam, and here is its ice point. So let's first of all write down this formula properly and substitute the values. So we know 0 degrees Celsius is the steam point or is the ice point for water, right? Similarly, when Fahrenheit and in Kelvin, let us write down these values before proceeding ahead. Right? So let's take first in degrees Celsius. So it's C minus 0 upon 100 minus 0, and then here we'll have F minus 32. 32 Fahrenheit is equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius, or the 32 Fahrenheit is that temperature at which ice is formed. We have 32 minus, F minus 32. Similarly, here in the denominator, you will get the difference as 180, right, between the steam point and ice point for water in your case of Fahrenheit scale, right? So it comes out to be 180. I think it's 212 minus 32. So you can write this as 212 minus 32. Similarly, for Kelvin scale, you have K minus 273.15 or 273, and in the denominator 373 minus 273. These are respectively steam points and ice point. All I have done is just substituted the values, right? So on this basis, different questions are asked. Class, if you have written everything on this screen, please raise your hand so that I can move to the next page. Yes. Once you have written everything on the screen, please raise your hand, class, so that I can move to the next page. Yes. Anukriti and Mahila are writing. So are you done? Mahila, are you done? Anukriti? Once done, just let me know so that we can move ahead. Yes. Or you can directly take a screenshot at these times, right? So that maybe you can use that screenshot later. Otherwise, these classes will definitely be uploaded online. From there, you all can access it anytime, right? Okay. So now you can bring your hands down, class. Thank you. All right. So now one variety of questions are very particularly based on the concept of conduction, right? Concept of conduction and radiation. So let's say I have a bar of metal. Okay, I have a bar or a piece of metal, and I am maintaining a temperature difference across it. So here we have a metal bar, and I am maintaining a temperature gradient or temperature difference with length along it. Temperature gradient is basically rate of change of temperature with length. It's called temperature gradient. Temperature gradient is rate of change of temperature with length. Now, let's say I'm maintaining a temperature difference of delta theta, right? So suppose if temperature is theta degrees Celsius here and 0 degrees Celsius here, right? So we'll have a temperature difference of delta theta on both sides, right? So class, or you can also, let's say we can also denote this as, if on one side temperature is theta, on the other side is theta plus delta theta, right? You can also write it in that format. So delta theta is the temperature difference between both sides, and let's say delta L is the length, right? Delta L is the length of this entire bar, right? So in such cases, you have the amount of heat, right? Amount of heat which is flowing per unit time, amount of heat which is flowing per unit time, or dq by dt. I will repeat, amount of heat which is flowing per unit time. So Anukriti, what I considered here is just an example where such cases might come in exam. So the example is really hypothetical here. So kindly do not go by the numerics. Just keep in mind the format which I've told you over here for this particular question, right? So I hope that suffices your question, right, Anukriti? In case yes, just let me know by chat. Moving ahead, class, just come back to this sum or the concept which I'm explaining everyone. Here we have, this is called as heat current. This is called as heat current or rate of flow of heat, the rate at which heat is flowing, dq by dt. This is given as Ka, right? Ka d theta, right? D theta upon dx. D theta by dx. This d theta by dx is nothing but temperature gradient. That is, how is temperature changing with length, right? Okay. So we have this. This can also be written in a normal form. This dq by dt is represented by H or heat current, and we write this as Ka. Instead of delta X, we can write delta L, right? Or let's take that delta L as small l. Let's take this delta L value as small l length. So we have Ka by L, Ka by L is equal, Ka by L into delta theta gives you heat current, right? So class, this is how you talk about conduction. This is called law of conduction. This is called law of conduction. Right? Similarly, you have something in this chapter called as Stefan Boltzmann's law. Stefan Boltzmann law. Right? So how does this Stefan Boltzmann law works is, it says that for transfer of heat, for transfer of radiation or heat by the means of radiation, transfer of heat by the means of radiation, transfer of heat by radiation, transfer of heat by radiation, we have the H, that is the rate of heat being given out. H is given as E, small e, times of A into sigma times of T power 4. Where what is this H? This is again heat current, heat being emanated per unit time, right? And what about this? This is called as E or emissivity. Similarly, this is the surface area of that body which is emitting heat, right? And then this is called Boltzmann constant, Stefan Boltzmann constant. This is a constant. While this one is absolute temperature. What is absolute? Absolute means value in Kelvin. Something, any temperature reported in Kelvin is called absolute. So we have absolute temperature, right? So I think these are few laws which should be known by all of you in order to understand the concepts or the questions which I have sent to you all, right? There is one more law which is called as Newton's law of cooling. It says that Newton's law of cooling. So let's say we have a cup of tea. Let's say we have some cup of tea which is placed on a table. It's a general observation that in winters, right? In winters, this cup with all its contents tend to get cooler faster, right? Whereas in summers, so in winters, you will see that a cup of coffee or a cup of tea will tend to get cooler at a fast rate. It cools at a fast rate. Whereas what about summers? In summers, this cup of coffee will cool at a slower rate. So what does this mean? It means that definitely there is some connection between the temperature of this cup with all its contents and the temperature of the surrounding. Let's say that is theta naught, right? Let's say that is theta naught. So this is what is encapsulated by this law called as Newton's law of cooling. It says that the rate of fall of temperature, I'll repeat, the rate of fall of temperature of any cooling body, in atmosphere is is directly proportional to difference of its temperature with the surroundings. Difference of its temperature with the surroundings. So this theta is the temperature of the hot body, at any time t. It's called instantaneous temperature. It's also called as instantaneous, means at any given time t. Instantaneous temperature, right? And this theta naught is the ambient temperature. It's this theta naught is the ambient temperature, right? So all these examples are being so all these are given to you because these will be now applied in the questions that I have given you all, right? Apart from these, there are a few more laws which are concerned with this, but we'll see them as we move ahead, right? So in fact, if feasible, I will suggest that those remaining laws can be revised by you all at your own end, right? Like, I'll give one example, like we have something called as Wien's displacement law. Wien's displacement law. So this Wien's displacement law says that whenever radiation is being emitted from a source, there is a wide variety of radiations which are emitted, right? So it's a spectrum distribution. So let's say we have a big spectrum distribution happening. Whenever radiation is being emitted from a source, there is a wide spectrum of radiation which can be observed. So different lambda. So what is this? This is basically a graph between lambda and the flux of energy, or how much intensity. I should basically write intensity. This one is also called as flux or intensity of radiation being emitted per unit time, per unit area. So I can also denote this as, some books denote this as E lambda, right? E lambda. So what this says is, or it's also called, there is a word called spectral emissive power. There is a word called spectral emissive power. Spectral emissive power. So it says that if I have a wide range of lambda being existed, some lambda which are of low wavelength, some ranges or some radiations which are of high wavelength, then again low wavelength, or maybe, so in fact, I'll correct my words. So if, let's say, we are talking about different lambda values, right? Different lambda values for radiation which are increasing in this manner. So if we see that there is a particular value of lambda for which, I'll repeat, there is a particular value. This is an observation class, right? This is an observation that there is a particular value of lambda, right? For which the value of spectral emissive power is highest. For the value of spectral emissive, for which the value of spectral emissive power is highest, right? And these are in fact called as the wavelength corresponding to maximum intensity. The wavelength corresponding to maximum intensity. See, because here the intensity of, so this particular wavelength will be called as lambda m. Write it here. This is wavelength. So let's say we have different range of wavelengths being coming out from a source, out of which there is a particular wavelength for which the intensity is maximum. So I will call this as wavelength corresponding to maximum emissive power or maximum spectral emissive power or intensity or maximum intensity. So that particular wavelength is being called as lambda m, right? So let's say the temperature at which this emission was taking place is T, right? Is T in Kelvin, of course. This is the temperature at which this emission is taking place, right? So let's say this is the body, okay? It's emitting different radiations. It's emitting different radiations. Each one has it's a spectrum, so each one has a different wavelength, right? But the temperature at this time is T, right? So at every temperature there is a particular wavelength for which the emission is maximum. I will repeat, take it as a note, everyone. At every temperature at every temperature there is a particular wavelength or lambda for which emissive power is maximum, right? So that is what we are denoting. That is what we are denoting as lambda m or lambda max. So according to Wien's displacement law, this lambda max or lambda m, whatever you call it, into this temperature at which this wavelength is being emitted by the body, that product lambda max into that temperature gives you a constant B, right? This is called as Wien's displacement constant, and its value is nearly 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 3 meter Kelvin. See, you can definitely guess the units, right? Because wavelengths SI unit will be meter. For temperature, it's going to be Kelvin. So its value is B is equal to 2.9 into 10 power minus 3 Kelvin. So now let us see some questions, right? The ones which I had given in assignment. So these assignment questions will have concepts from the chapter thermodynamics as well as some concepts from this chapter, that is thermal properties of matter, right? Let's see them. So here you go, right? Let's start off with the assignment questions. So let's take, I'll request all of you to please open the assignments in front of you so that we can start. So these are the assignment questions. These are the assignment questions. Let's start. Like, these are some very peculiar and amazing examples and have a high probability of appearing in this year's paper. So class, please make sure that you are highly attentive as I'm going through these questions, right? So first question. So I'll request one of you, let's say Karuna, to take the charge and read the questions, and one by one we'll come to all of you. Okay. So I'm unmuting you all. Okay. Yes, Karuna, go ahead. Yeah. Can you read the first question, Karuna? Meanwhile, I'll go with the diagram. Yeah. Yes, Karuna, go ahead.
So there is a graph.
Mm-hmm.
It has four. In the graph, there are four curves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to match those curves with isochoric, isobaric, and isothermal and adiabatic.
Okay. So class, we have been told that there are different curves, right? Which have been shown on a PV graph. Which have been shown on a PV graph. And what we are supposed to do is to classify them as isobaric, isochoric, adiabatic, and isothermal. So I'll name them as A, B. Okay, I think it's the other way around. It starts from here: A, B, C, and D. Okay. So Karuna, can you help us with the classification? Yes, go ahead.
So the A curve will be isochoric.
A is isochoric. How did you find this out, Karuna?
So because volume is constant in
Correct.
isochoric.
Point volume is constant. Let's say V naught. Okay. A is isochoric. Absolutely correct. Yes. What's next?
B is adiabatic.
How did you find out whether B is adiabatic or C is adiabatic, Karuna?
So because adiabatic is always has a greater curve than
Has a larger
B.
slope. Has a larger
Yeah,
slope.
larger slope.
Yes, absolutely correct. So we have B is an adiabatic process. Okay. What about C?
C is isothermic,
Isothermal. Okay.
and D is isobaric.
D is
Isobaric.
isobaric. Why is it isobaric? Because
Pressure is constant.
it is very clear that is a horizontal line, and on any horizontal line in an xy plane, the value of y is constant. So here pressure is
Constant.
constant. Absolutely correct, Karuna. Absolutely correct. Great. So I hope this question is clear to everyone. If yes, please raise your hand. Yes, students. So please raise your hand if the concept in the question is clear to you. Okay, great. Thank you, class. You can bring your hands down. Let us take next question. Karuna, we'll continue with you as our uh, help in the question. So yeah, Karuna, can you please tell that? Yeah, can you please read the question number 2? Yeah, go ahead, read it.
In an adiabatic process, the pressure of a gas is found proportional to cube of absolute temperature.
Okay, let us
For
write. Let us write this. It is given that for an adiabatic process, a process is adiabatic in nature, right? For a process which is adiabatic in nature, we have been told that pressure. Yes, go ahead.
pressure is proportional to the cube of absolute temperature.
Pressure is proportional to the cube of absolute temperature. All right. What else?
We have to find the ratio of Cp by Cv.
Okay. So we have to find the ratio of Cp is to Cv. What is this, by the way? What is Cp and Cv, Karuna? Do we know about it?
Uh, yeah, sir. Adiabatic constant.
Cp is to Cv is gamma or adiabatic constant. Before we solve this question, here is again a quick knowledge update for all of you. So, in the chapters thermal properties of matter, kinetic theory of gases, and thermodynamics, there is a combined knowledge update which should be known by all of us in order to solve such questions. I hope we all already know that Cp is to Cv is the ratio of specific heats called as lambda, right? And we also know one more thing, the fact that there are three different kinds of gases which are generally known. One are monoatomic, the others are diatomic, right? And the third ones are triatomic gases. Each one has a different degree of freedom. So when I say degree of freedom, it means that if I take a molecule, in how many directions is the molecule uh, can make a particular kind of motion. So let's say some molecule which is let's say just monoatomic, it might have the degree, or it might have 3 degrees of freedom. It can move in 3 directions, right? Or you can also say some molecules have different degrees of freedom in the sense that can they rotate, can they vibrate, can they move linearly, right? So in this way, different molecules based upon their geometric structure have different degrees of freedom in which they can either vibrate, rotate, or move linearly in a particular direction in XYZ, right? So on the basis of that, there is this term called as F, or degree of freedom, which is different for different categories of gases. Okay, there is a term called degree of freedom, F, right? Degree of freedom, which takes a different value for different types of gases. So for monoatomic gases, its value is 3. For diatomic gases, its value is 5. For triatomic gases, its value is sometimes taken as 6. At other times, it's also taken as 7. depending upon are we considering vibrational mode of degree of freedom or not. I will repeat, sometimes it's taken as 6, at the other time it's taken as 7. Now let us see how do you relate the concept of degree of freedom to the adiabatic constant gamma, which we just read, right? So we will have it this way. Right, let's start it from here. Okay, now I'm going to write it over here this way. Maybe I'll write more in a more linear fashion so that we don't cross these boundaries, right? So we'll take monoatomic have 3, diatomic have 5, triatomic have 6 degrees of freedom. Now there is a formula. There is a formula which connects adiabatic constant with degrees of freedom, right? This is the formula. Gamma is equal to 1 plus 2 by f, right? So 1 by 1, I want you all to calculate this. Atul will tell me about gamma for like the value of gamma for monoatomic. Mahila will tell me value of gamma for diatomic, and Anukriti will tell me the value of gamma for triatomic. Yes. So we'll start from Atul. Yes, Atul, get going. Monoatomic. The value
Yes,
of monoatomic. Yes, Atul.
the value of gamma for monoatomic is 5 by 3.
1 plus 2 by 3, which is equal to 5 by 3. Absolutely correct.
5 by 3.
Absolutely correct. Okay, now let's take it from Mahila. Yes, Mahila. The value of gamma for diatomic. 1 plus 2 by 5. Tell me. Yeah. Yes, Mahila.
So the value of diatomic gamma is 7 by 5, sir.
7 by 5. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, Mahila. Great. So now let us take it from Anukriti. Yes, Anukriti.
So for triatomic, it is 8 by 6.
Okay, so it is 1 plus 2 by 6, right? So it becomes
Yes,
1 plus 1 by 3 or 4 by 3. You can also call it 8 by 6 or 4 by 3, right? So we'll write it over here. All right, great, Anukriti. Now, class, there is one more term as we just read, right? CP and CV. These values can also be written in terms of degree of freedom. See here, everyone, the value of CV is FR by 2. The value of CV is FR by 2, where what is R? R is universal gas constant, right? We all know it. It comes in the equation, ideal gas equation. PV is equal to nRT. So here the R which comes, it's the universal gas constant. Universal gas constant. So this universal gas constant comes here in the formula of CV. So I will want you all to tell me the different values of CV for these gases. Class, this table which I'm drawing here, no, this is one of such an important table which you should never forget in your entire course of be it study now or later. CP minus CV, because thermodynamic studies are a like thing of the present and future. If you know the thermodynamic of a process, right, thermodynamics of a process, it becomes very conducive to evaluate different effects that process can have on the environment, on the different other processes. So let's say right now we know there is something called as environmental impact assessment, EIA, right? So if the government has researchers who are conducting EIA, they should definitely have the idea of thermodynamics of a process. How is the process working, right? So these are the particular basics which we are reading in this chapter, which will help you there when you go and perform such experiments as a researcher or as a scientist or whatnot, right? So an understanding therefore is imperative, right? Okay, so now how will we write CP? CP will be equal to R plus CV. CP will be equal to, from this formula, R plus CV. Okay, so now let us take Atul for all of these values of CV. Yes, Atul, get going. Values of CV for mono, di and tri. Get going, Atul. Yeah.
So for monoatomic, it is
3R by
3 into 3R by 2.
right.
Sorry.
For diatomic it is
5R by 2.
5.
5R by 2.
Absolutely correct. Okay, I'll write it in similar.
And for triatomic, it is 6R. Sorry, 3R.
So we have 3R by 2. while this is 6R by 2 or 3R. Okay.
3R.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, Atul. Atul, can you also help me with these values? That is the CP values for these gases? Yes. Get going.
Cp is R plus Cv, so R plus 3R by 2 for monatomic.
1 plus 3 by 2. That is 5 by 2, right? So this will be
5 by 2.
5 by
Yes,
2,
sir.
correct? All right.
Yes, sir.
Let us write it as 5. I'll take it a different color. 5R by 2. Absolutely correct. How about CP?
7R by 2.
7R.
7R by 2.
Absolutely correct. We are just adding one
And
R2, this number, right? R2. Yeah. Yes.
yes, sir. And for triatomic, it is 4R.
So it was, this one was 7R by 2. This one is 4R. Absolutely correct.
4R.
Absolutely correct. Thank you, Atul. So, class, now let us use these results which we have just found out in order to solve such questions, right? One more result which will be very handy. Let's see it here. So, this is the result, class. So, this is how what we have done is, in essence, we have revised the concepts, formulas from the two chapters, thermodynamics and thermal properties of matter, right? Which specifically repeat every year. So questions from these parts repeat in the examinations. So yesterday we had read the first law of thermodynamics states that heat given to a system changes to internal energy and work done. All right. So we have therefore we should know how are these related to temperature or pressure, etc. So we learned yesterday that work or delta W or just W depends on pressure and volume in this way. It's the area under the PV graph and given by integral PdV, right? And then we had different values of this for an isobaric, thermal and adiabatic processes. Isochoric work done is 0, etc. Right? Then we also saw that heat or delta Q, right? That is given as that delta Q is basically given as that is given as NC delta T. NC delta T. Right? This is how we saw heat is given as. You can also write heat in an integral differential form, or maybe Q is equal to NC delta T from temperature T1 to temperature T2. When will this happen? When this specific heat is some function of T, then this value of heat formula is applicable, right? Similarly, this value called as internal energy, try to understand this class very carefully, internal energy. So according to some assumptions, we take that this internal energy is just a function of temperature and it is given as NCV delta T. NCV delta T, always, for any process. For any process, if the temperature change is delta T, value of delta U or the change in internal energy, this is better call it change in internal energy. Better call this delta H as heat transferred. Better call this one as work done, because sometimes there might be some confusions arising because of delta sign, presence, absence, etc. So we'll avoid that, right? So this value had P delta V in case of isobaric process. This value of work in case of iso. So I want one of you to remind us what was the value of work for adiabatic and isothermal process. Okay, so can you tell this, Karuna? Yes, for an isothermal process. So this was for an isobaric process. What about an isothermal process, Karuna? Yes, for an isothermal process, work is
So isothermal work is,
you have to remember this. Yes, nRT.
oh, nRT log of V2 by V1.
Ah, won't have to forget this, right? What kind of log? Natural log or log to the base?
Natural log.
Natural.
Natural log.
Okay, what about adiabatic process, Karuna?
NR by gamma minus 1 into T1 minus T2.
nR whole by gamma minus 1 times of T1 minus T2.
T1 minus T2.
Okay, great. Great. So we can also, so this one is particularly for an ideal gas. This one is particularly for an ideal gas. If I'm not talking about an ideal gas, this adiabatic work has also one more form, Karuna. Everyone note this down. And that formula is, instead of nRT1, how can you write? We know that T1 V1 is nRT1, right? Correct? And we also know
Yes.
P2 V2. Let's say the gas goes to another state, P2 V2 T2. So first state was P1 V1 T1. The gas goes to another state, P2 V2 T2. So in such a case, we can write nRT1 as P1 V1, right? And nRT2 as P2 V2. So just that in this formula, we will replace nRT1 by P1 V1 and nRT2 by P2 V2. So for any gas, this formula holds. P1 V1 minus P2 V2 whole by gamma minus 1. This is for any gas. Whereas this formula is particularly for an ideal gas. Am I clear on this, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everyone class, note this down. One page, all formulas for the application in questions related to first law. Yes, class, get going. Once everyone has written this, please raise your hand. Yes, class. Once everybody has written this, please raise your hand. Yes. Okay, Anukriti is done. Atul is done. Mahila is also done. So we'll wait for Karuna. Okay, Karuna is also done. Okay, great. So class, now let us start off with a question, right? Okay, Karuna, can you also tell me one more thing? Thank you, class. You can bring your hands down. Do we have an expression for any adiabatic process taking place in terms of PVT? Is there an expression for an adiabatic process? Yes, Karuna. Tell me.
So PV to the power gamma is constant.
Absolutely correct. Why are you doubting yourself? You're very correct. PV per gamma is a constant. So now when PV per gamma is a constant, can we see a V here in the equation, by the way, Karuna? No, right? We can't.
No, sir.
Can we bring a V here in the equation? Can we set it into this form? This equation, can we set it into this form, Karuna? Think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, try to think. How can we do it? Can we set the given equation, the proportionality equation, in this form? Okay, so Karuna, tell me one thing. Can you, if given some A is proportional to B, what does this mean? A is equal to some constant times B, right?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, pressure being proportional to the third power of temperature implies that
P
pressure
equal.
is equal to some constant times of temperature power 3. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, one more thing. Do we know this? What do we know an ideal gas equation, Karuna?
Yes, sir. Yes.
What is it? What is it? Tell me. What does the ideal?
NR PV is equal to nRT.
So we can also say that PV is proportional to temperature given N and R are constant. Yes.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So from here, can we replace temperature by PV in the given equation? Can we put this PV proportional to, or can we do something by using these two expressions and replace temperature from there? Wherever it is given, because I want this form. This is my goal.
So.
I'll repeat. Don't get confused. I'll repeat. So we have been given that pressure, right? We have been given that pressure is directly proportional to the cube of temperature, right, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Now you have said that, sir, PV is also proportional to T by the ideal gas equation, right?
Yes, sir.
Now I am saying that I want to form PV par gamma is some constant, right? Correct? Or I can also say that PV, or basically that P is proportional to 1 by V par gamma, correct? I want a relation in terms of P and V. So I want to remove T. How will you do it? Yes, using these two equations or proportionality relations.
So we can write P is proportional to T by V.
Think more, think more. I want to remove T from here, Karuna. Just substitute PV here. So
Mm.
suppose when we write A is proportional to BQ and suppose B is proportional to C. So how can you write this, Karuna? That A is proportional to, instead of B, you will write C, right? So in
Yes, sir.
proportionality relation, we can just replace the variable. Are we clear with this, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Now do it. Now do it for this question. Yes. P
P is proportional
proportional to, yeah, tell me.
PV the whole cube.
Yes, PV the whole cube. Be loud, be loud. P is proportional to PV the
Whole cube.
whole cube. So can we write this expression as P proportional to P cube, V cube, Karuna? Can we write it this way?
Yes, sir.
Now, can we take both of the variables on the other side? Can we do that? Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's do it. So we'll have P, yeah, tell me, P raised to the power 1 minus 3,
3.
right?
Yes, sir.
And P raised to the power
Minus 3.
minus 3, right, is a constant. Can
Constant.
this, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Now, what does the expression become? Tell me.
P to the power minus 2
Uh-huh.
into V to the power minus 3 is constant.
Okay. Now, is it of the same form, the one which we required? Is it of this form or not?
So,
No, right? Because the power of P in the form required is 1. Whereas here the power is, Karuna,
minus 2.
power is power
Minus 2.
minus 2. How will you turn the power into 1? By multiplying both, like by taking power of minus 1 by 2 on both sides.
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Into.
No integration. Just take the power minus 1 by 2 on both sides. Can we do this, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do it. Do it. I hope everyone is doing as we are doing it here on the board, right? Okay, what next, Karuna? What will happen next? Tell me. This
P
LHS,
into
yes.
P
P.
into V to the power
Uh-huh.
minus 3 by 2. Oh, 3 by 2. Sorry, 3
P
by
by 2. Why? Because exponents get multiplied. If you take, suppose you have an expression as a power b whole power c, then you have a power bc,
2.
right? I hope everyone is clear with these basic laws of indices, right? So this becomes p into v power 3 by 2 is now some other constant. Let's ignore what the constant is. We have some other constant k, right? Now, Karuna, tell me, are we on the same equation format which we were looking for?
Yes, sir.
Are we?
Yes, sir.
Pakka?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can we compare the two and tell what is the value of gamma?
So value of gamma is 3 by 2.
Value of gamma by comparison comes out to be 3 by 2. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Great. Are you clear with this approach, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
Pakka?
Yes, sir.
So we have one such question coming up, right? So once you know gamma, can you calculate degrees of freedom?
Yes, sir.
How? How? Because
So,
you must be knowing some relation between them. There should be some relation. Only then you can find out F, right?
yes, sir.
What is the
So
relation?
gamma is
Yeah,
1 plus 2 by f.
absolutely correct. So gamma is equal to 1 plus 2 by F. Let's write this here. Gamma or 3 by 2 is equal to 1 plus 2 by F. Yeah, what does the expression become? 3.5 minus 1.5 minus 1 is half. So you have this expression becomes as 2 by F is equal to 1 by 2, correct? And therefore degree of freedom comes out to be 4. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Pakka?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, great, great. So whenever you get degree of freedom as 4, try to think, Karuna, can this be monoatomic gas? No, right?
No,
It cannot
no,
be.
sir.
Can it be a diatomic gas?
No.
So it definitely means that it's a mixture of monoatomic and diatomic gas. Are we clear on this, Karuna?
Yes, sir.
I will repeat myself. Is suppose you got now F as 4, right? Now it's very baffling. Why? Because if F had been 3, we would have classified this gas as monoatomic. If F had been 5, I would have told it's diatomic, but it's neither 3 nor 5. It lies somewhere in between. So now I'll say that this is neither a monoatomic nor a diatomic gas, but a mixture of the two, a mixture of the two, right? So this is also class how questions are asked. In exam, you might be given this equation that pressure is directly proportional to T cube. What kind of gas it is? Either is it monoatomic or is it diatomic? Is it a mixture of mono and diatomic? Or is it none of the above? So what will be your answer in this case, Karuna, if such a question comes?
None of the more. Third option.
Think about it. Think about it. What should be the answer? Is it a mixture of mono and di? Is it
Yes, sir.
mono
Mixture
and
of
di,
mono
or is
and
it none of the above?
mixture of mono and di.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Why? Explain it to everyone. Explain it to everyone. Yeah.
So because the degree is neither of monoatomic nor of diatomic, but it's between mono and di. So it's mixture of
Between
mono and di.
mono and di, right? Okay. So it's a mixture, right? It's a mixture. Great. Great. Excellent, Karuna. Excellent. Class, in case you have written all of this, just raise your hand if the question is clear to you. Karuna, is the question clear to you, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, great. Class, please raise your hand if the question is clear to all of you. How did we go about it? We were given a relation between pressure and temperature, and then we translated to different relations, and finally reached to this form: PV par N is a constant. Okay, so I think Atul wants to ask something. Yes, Atul, go ahead. Okay, Atul is also clear. Great. Okay, great. Thank you, Karuna. Let us take Atul for the next question. So, all right. So we'll take Atul for the next question. Yes, Atul. Can you please read the next question, Atul?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is given that two Carnot engines A and B are operating in series.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if Q denotes heat and W denotes work done, calculate T2. If work done by A is equal to work done by B, that is W1 equals to W2.
Okay. Can you explain this question in your own words, everyone? Yeah.
So it is given that two Carnot engines are given to us, and they are connected in series. And the work done by the engine A is equals to the work done by engine B, and we need to find the we need to find T2.
What is
Uh-huh. We need to find the temperature heat supplied to the second engine.
temperature of the second engine? So this is, or
Second engine.
basically this is not the engine. This is the reservoir or a sink. It is sink for one
Yes,
and
yes.
the source for the other, right? So this is sink for the middle one is basically sink for the A and source for the B,
Here is the one.
right? We have
B.
two engines, A and B. For one engine, what is serving as sink, it is serving as a source for the other engine, right?
Other engine.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So can we take this as T1 and the other as T2? This one as
T2.
right?
T2.
Now mark one thing that the heat which is coming from T1 into the engine is how much? It is Q1, right?
Q1.
Same heat
Yes, sir.
entering from the engine A into the reservoir T2. How much is it? Q2. Some amount of heat,
Q2.
not exactly, but some amount of heat is entering the reservoir, second reservoir. How about the heat which is coming from this reservoir? Have a look at it. Have a look at it.
Q2.
How much is it?
Q2.
What does this? What does? Yes.
Q2, sir.
Yeah. So if it is Q2, what are we meaning by it? Like try guessing. See here, the same heat which is coming from one engine is being used in the second engine. Can you see this? See here, the same heat Q2 is coming from Q2 being rejected. Q2 being rejected to the reservoir is being extracted from the reservoir for the working of the second engine. Is this peculiarity clear now, Atul? The same heat,
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and then we are taking or rejecting Q3 heat in the final reservoir. So we have one reservoir, this is second reservoir, and this is the third reservoir. Now, the question says if the work done by engine number 1 or engine A is W1, the work done by engine number B, if that is W2, so question says that W1 is equal to W2. All right. So, Atul, do we know a formula connecting W or the work done with efficiency or temperature, some kind of relation? Do we know such relations?
Yes, sir. We know a relation that is
Yeah.
T1 equals to T2 plus W1 for work done equals to T1 minus T2. Work done equals to T1 minus T2.
Let's try to be more precise. So we have one formula for efficiency, right? What is the efficiency given as output by input, right?
Output by input.
What is the output for first engine? Tell me.
Q2.
Output is
Q2.
work. For work, the engine is being
Oh,
right?
sorry, sir.
No
For
worry.
engine, output is the work.
For an engine, why is engine used, Atul? Why is engine used? To deliver some work, right? The engine
Yes, sir.
delivers some work. So that is the main output, right? That is the main output of it. This is the rejection. Q2 is the rejected heat. This was actually not desired rejection. This rejection was not desired. In fact, we would be most happy if Q2 would be 0. We would be most happy if Q2 would be 0. So our aim was to get W1 as the output. So W1 is the output, right?
Yes, sir.
What is the input?
And input is Q1.
Q1. So this gives me the efficiency, correct? And
Yes.
we can see the relation that W1 is Q1 minus Q2, correct?
Yes, sir. Q1. Yes, sir.
Q1 minus Q2. Let's write this. Okay. Then similarly, we have here Q1. Similarly, efficiency for the second engine will again given as
W2 by
W2 upon
by
W1,
Q3.
right?
Q2. W2 by Q2.
Q2, sorry. Yeah, Q2.
Yes, sir.
Coincidentally, we are given in the question that W1 is equal to W2, right? And
Yes, sir.
you know that W1 is Q1 minus Q2, is it not? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Because we can see that this heat is basically turning into work and some part of it is going into Q2, right? So we can write that Q1 is equal to W plus Q2 and therefore W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. Are we clear with this, Atul?
Yes, sir.
Now we will just substitute instead of W1 or instead of W2, W1 here in the equation, right? And this will give us Q1
Yes, Q2.
whole by Q2, correct? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Right? Efficiency.
Yes, sir.
First efficiency of the first uh, engine is 1 minus Q2 by Q1, correct?
Yes, sir.
1 minus Q2 by Q1. And how about the efficiency for the second engine? Tell me.
Q1 minus Q2 by Q1 minus Q2 minus 1.
Q2
Q1 by Q2.
1 by Q2, Q1 by Q2 minus 1. This is the efficiency
Minus 1.
of the second,
Second.
right? Can we write this? Can we write it this way? Right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Now let's see what are we given in the question. Okay, we are given with temperature value. See, we are given with temperature values.
T1 is 600 Kelvin.
And T2 is equal to 400.
T2. We need to find T2.
T2, sorry, T2,
So we need to find T2.
yeah, and T2 is not given. So
Yes, sir.
it's given 400, right? Okay. Now, can we write
Yes, sir.
efficiency in terms of temperature? Atul, can we write efficiencies in terms of temperature?
Yes, sir. 1 minus T2 by Q1. So 1 minus T2 by T1.
T2 by T1. This is efficiency
T1.
1, right? How about efficiency 2? That is efficiency
T1 by
1
T2 minus
1 minus,
T1 by T2.
that is T3 by T2.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
See,
T3
don't get
by T2.
confused. I'll write it here. So whenever there is an engine, let's say this is the engine. This is T1 or the temperature of the source. This is T2, temperature of the sink. So as a standard format, efficiency is always given as 1 minus temperature of sink upon temperature of source. Are we clear with this, Atul?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, efficiency will be given as for the first engine or efficiency A using this formula. Now use this formula, Atul, and write down the efficiency for the first engine. So for the first engine, we have T1 minus T1 minus T2 by T1, correct? Because
Yes, sir.
this one is
T2 by T2.
source, sorry,
Temperature of sink.
the sink, whereas this is source.
Source.
Now now establish the same link for the second engine. In the second engine, we have this is
T3 as the temperature of the sink.
yeah. So T2 is the source and T3 is the sink, correct?
Sink.
So
Yes, sir.
here you will have temperature of the sink from the formula, and from here you will have temperature of the source. Are we clear with this, Atul? That we
Yes,
have
sir.
a general formula for efficiency for any Carnot engine, right? And that formula gives you eta or efficiency is equal to 1 minus temperature of sink by temperature of source. Efficiency is equal to 1 minus T sink by T source. Are we clear with this, Atul?
Yes, sir.
Now, all you have to do is to just equate these expressions and you will get the answer. Equate these expressions and you will get the answer. So just equate these expressions, see, you will get, tell me what you'll get.
1.
By T1
1 minus.
equal to Q2
Yes,
by,
1 minus.
right?
Yes, sir.
From here, what will you get by comparing above two equations? 1 minus Q1
T2.
by Q2. Acha, Q1 by Q2 is already T1 by T2 from here.
Yes, sir.
So,
T2.
right?
Yes, sir.
Correct. So, from this formula, we'll do one trick. Have a look here. So, this gives me T1 by T2 minus 1 is equal to efficiency of this engine, eta 2. Right?
Yes, sir.
Have a look here. Am
Yes, sir.
I correct in writing this?
Yes, sir.
So after this step, I move to efficiency. I've written this, right? Now, I will just equate the two expressions. All I'm doing is a simple play of algebra, right? So I get T1 minus T2 minus 1 is the value of efficiency of the second engine, and by the general formula, this is also equal to 1 minus T
1 minus T2 by T1. Done.
T3
T3
by
by T2.
this formula. So one,
Yes,
I
sir.
have taken the general definition of efficiency for the second engine, and this formula
Okay.
has come from the relation which is given in the question, that work done was same. Since work done was same, we got this second formula for the efficiency of the second engine. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now all that you have to do is just substitute the values. We know the value of T1, we know the value of T3, we just need to find out T2. Are we clear, Atul? How did we go about the question?
Yes, sir.
it seems challenging because we are solving it. I'm solving it one by one, step by step, everything. But when you are used to such kind of questions, this is not more than a 2-minute question. Very simple, right? So I will write that expression here. What is given? We'll we'll just take this term on the other side. We'll have T1 plus
T1 plus T3 by T2 equals to 2.
right is equal to 2. This will imply that T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 upon 2. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, what will be the answer? 400 plus 600,
400 plus 600 by 2. 500.
500, right? So our answer will be temperature of the middle reservoir. Temperature of the middle reservoir. Temperature
Is 500 Kelvin.
reservoir, that is T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 upon 2, which is 600 plus 400 by 2 or 500 Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Yeah. Can you repeat
Yes, sir.
the process, Atul, for everybody's clarity? Yes. Get going.
So the coefficient of efficiency for the first engine is W1 by Q1.
I will with you. Okay. So efficiency for the engine, for any engine, is always output by input, right? Output by input.
Output by input.
So work delivered outside and what was the input taken for it. So W1
Input
by Q1. All right. Good, Atul. What?
Q1. And for the second engine, it is W2 by Q2.
Why is it?
Work done. W2 is the output, and Q2 is the input for the second engine.
W2 is the output and Q2 is the input for the second engine.
Input.
Absolutely correct. So efficiency basic formula.
And
So class efficiency basic formula is always output delivered, right? Output delivered upon input for input which was yes. Go ahead, Atul. Yes, go ahead.
yes, sir. And we are given in the question that W1 equals to W2.
Uh-huh.
And then coefficient are
We use the
uh,
formula here. In the second formula for efficiency for the second engine, instead of W2, we substituted W1 as it was
W1.
given in the question, right? As it was given in the question. And W1,
Yes,
W1, it is always
W1.
equal to Q1 minus Q2. It is always equal
Q1 minus Q2.
to Q1 minus Q2. So all we did was substitute that value over here, Q1 minus Q2, right?
Yes, sir.
And we already
Yes.
know that Q1 is to Q2 is equal to T1 is to T2. We know this, right? We already know.
Yes, sir.
I proved this yesterday. Or in fact, you can prove it. We had stated this yesterday in the class, but you can always prove it that for a Carnot engine, this is a result. I will write it here, class. For any Carnot engine, Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2. Where what is T1, T2, Q1, Q2? T1 is the source temperature, right? And T2 is the source sink temperature. Similarly, Q1 is the heat coming from the source, Q2 is the heat rejected to the sink, and W is the work done. So these primarily formulas which you have to remember. These are the formulas which you have to remember. That work is Q1 minus Q2 and the ratio Q1 is to Q2 is T1 is to T2. So this is something worth remembering, right? So class, here, when we were transiting from this expression here, I am just writing that Q2 is to Q1 is T2 is to T1. This is something which we already know, right? And therefore, this is how the formula comes. Okay. Yes, continue, Atul. Then we went for efficiency of the second engine, right?
Second, yes, sir. For the second engine, it is output by input. So Q3, W2 is the output, and W2 by Q2 is the input.
Input.
Okay.
Right? So this
Input.
was the input, whereas this one was the output. Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
W2 is Q2 minus Q3.
But we need not go first. We need not go for it because it's given that W2 is equal to W1 in the question, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
then we got the equation that efficiency equals to 1 minus T3 by T2.
So basically what we did, we got one equation for efficiency, general equation from over here, from this expression, that 1 minus T3 upon T2, and one equation we got from the expression, it is equal to W2 upon Q2, which is nothing but
W1 by Q2
W1 by Q2, which is equal to Q1 minus Q2 upon
minus
Q2,
Q2 by
which is
Q2.
1 minus, which is Q1 minus Q2 minus 1. And as we know, Q1 minus Q2 is Q1 by Q2 is T1 by T2. So this
T1 by
becomes
T2.
T1 by T2 minus,
T1 by T2
right? So
minus.
simple step. See, this was step 1, this was step 2. All you have to do is equate these expressions. So you have 1 minus T3 by T2 is equal to T1 by T2 minus 1. Correct? So it was just
Minus
two
1.
simple
Yes,
equations, and we have equated them here to get that T1 upon T2 plus T3 by T2 is equal to 1 plus 1 or 2, and therefore T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 upon 2. Right? Is it
yes,
clear,
sir.
Atul?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, we got 600 plus 400 by 2
That's
as
400.
the answer, or 500
500.
Kelvin. Right? So see,
Yes.
this was such a simple question, class. Such a simple question. All we had to do is just substitute the value into efficiency. You should know what efficiency is in terms of work and heat, in terms of input and output, and in terms of temperature. 1 minus. So efficiency formula you should always know. The efficiency formula is efficiency is equal to 1 minus T2 upon T1, or better call it 1 minus temperature of the sink upon temperature of the source. Are we clear with this, Atul? So these are the three formulas that we all need to remember. If you remember these formulas, right, and one more, that efficiency is basically work output, which is work output, and what has been the heat input, right, or W upon Q1. These are the four formulas, class, which we need to remember. If you remember these four formulas from Carnot engine, you can solve any question by simple play of algebra. By simple play of algebra. Am I clear here, Atul, for this? How did we go about it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And class, once,
So,
tell me.
but I did it in another way, sir. So, for W1, we know that W1 equals to Q1 minus Q2 and W2 equals to Q3 minus Q2. I equated them both and found the answer. And I got the same answer as 500 Kelvin.
So we have QW as Q1 minus Q2,
Q2. Yes,
and
sir.
W2 as
Q3
Q2
minus
minus
Q2.
Q2
Q2
minus
minus
Q2, right?
Q3.
So we have
Yes,
therefore
sir.
Q1 plus Q3 is equal to 2Q2, right?
2
And
Q2.
therefore this gives us Q2 is equal to Q1 plus Q3 upon 2. But
2.
this relation is telling me the relation between heat and not the temperature. Although that is a different case that we have. Okay, so yeah, you can go about it basically. Let's see, can you? Yeah, so after this expression, what did you do?
I substituted the value for T1,
No,
T3 and
no,
found.
no. Here you cannot directly substitute the values of T1, T2, T3. No, because Q2 is not equal to T2, Atul. This is heat,
Uh,
whereas this is temperature. You cannot equate the two. Are you getting it?
yes,
So although
yes,
the
sir, yes, sir.
ratio, although the ratio Q1 is to Q2 is T1 is to T2, but this does not imply that T1 is equal to Q1, because they are different quantities altogether. Q1 is heat, whereas T1 is temperature. You cannot equate them. Although your approach is correct to one extent, see how we just got in this expression Q2 is equal to Q1 plus Q3 by 2. Q2 is equal to Q1 plus Q3 by 2. I think that we can maybe divide this expression by Q. 2 on both sides. So let's see what we get. All we get is q1 by q2, right, plus q3 by q2, right, whole by 2, right? If we divide both sides by q2, then we can get 2 is equal to q1 by q2 plus q3 by q2. Now we can say that
Yes.
since q1 upon q2 is t1 by t2,
T1 by T2.
and since q3 by q2 is equal to t3 by t2, therefore substituting we can get q is 2 is equal to t1 by t2 plus t3 by t2, and therefore
T2.
T2 is equal to T1 plus T3 upon 2, and therefore 600 plus 400 by 2, or 500 Kelvin. Are we clear, Atul?
Yes, sir.
On
Yes,
this
sir.
approach. So I really appreciate you, Atul, that you have adopted this technique to reach until one point. Yes, until this point you were really correct. So class, have a look. Atul has come up with one more technique of solving this question. Right? He just equated the work from the first and the second engine, because this is given in the question that work delivered by the first engine is equal to work delivered by the second engine, or Q1 is equal to Q2. It's given in the question. Q1 and Q2 are equal. So what Atul did is just he equated the two expressions, got the idea that Q1 minus Q2 is equal to Q3, Q2 minus Q3, just the values of it. Similarly, just arrange the equation to get this expression. Q2 is equal to Q1 plus Q3 by 2. But here, one mistake that he did was just replace Q2 by T2, but that cannot be done. So then I and Atul came up with one thing, that can we divide both the sides by Q2? We said yes. So we proceeded, we divided both sides by Q2 to get this ratio class, get this ratio. So ratio of heat is equal to ratio of absolute temperatures, right? Ratio of heat is equal to ratio of absolute temperature. Class, please mark. Sometimes in order to confuse you, they might give you 500 degrees Celsius. Please do not end up substituting this. This is the ratio of absolute temperatures. Absolute temperatures means we have to convert temperature into Kelvin and then substitute in this formula. Very important, super important. So coincidentally, this question told me that temperatures are given as 600 and 400 Kelvin. That is why I directly substituted it. In case not, I wouldn't have done that. I would have first converted into Kelvin and then substituted in the formula to get the answer. Atul, question to you. Is this approach clear to you? The second approach of solving this problem.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
is the first approach clear to you, Atul? How did we go about it? We equated the
Yes,
efficiency of the second engine, right? In my approach, we equated the efficiency of the second engine. In your approach, we equated the work done of
work done.
the two engines, right? Are we clear with the approach, both
Yes.
approaches, Atul?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we clear that here all we are doing is a play of algebra, and there are four equations that need to be remembered by you all? Are you clear with this fact? Can you repeat this equation for all of us? Yes. Atul, get going.
So which equation?
These four equations. Can you read it out? Yes.
Yes, sir. Q1 by Q2 equals to T1 by T2.
Yes.
And W work done equals to Q1 minus Q2.
Where what
And
what is Q2?
Q1 is the input input heat, and Q2 is the heat given to the sink.
Absolutely correct. Yes. How about
Coefficient of efficiency is 1 minus T sink by T source. So 1 minus T2 by T1.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. What next?
And the coefficient of efficiency is work done. Sorry, output by input. So W by Q1.
Absolutely correct. Now, very clear. Is the concept crystal clear to you, Atul, after this?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So please note it down, everyone. Please note down this. And once you have done it, please raise your hand so that I'll know that you have noted it down, and we'll move ahead. Yes. Class, please raise your hand as soon as you have done writing this so that we can move ahead. Okay, all have raised the hands. Great, great. Thank you everyone. Thanks a lot for being in the session. So I think we have some more questions to go from question number 4 until question number 11, right? So these again are very good questions which are based on these concepts. So I just wanted to make sure that we discuss very properly because these questions learned now are going to help you with the solving of your exams ahead. So rather than rushing in this class, I would rather prefer that we go with a balanced pace and cover these questions in the coming class. So thank you everyone. Let us meet in the next session for this assignment and the syllabus ahead and finish the same one by one, right? So thank you everyone for being a part of the session. Thank you very much.